on to the next panelists. And this is exciting. First of all, congrats to Reagan Arthur on her brilliant new imprint. Her literary instincts are unerring, which is why it's such a thrill to have devoured one of her first titles. An extraordinary novel, an alt history like no other. Got kind of a dark academia thing to it. It's just simply splendid. The Book of Guilt by Catherine Chidgey is the book that we're talking about. Catherine's novels have been published to international acclaim. Her first, In a Fishbone Church, won first book at the New Zealand Book Awards and the Commonwealth Writers' Prize. In the UK, it won the Betty Trask Award and was longlisted for the Orange Prize. Her second, Golden Deed, was a notable book of the year in the New York Times and a best book in the LA Times. Catherine has won the prize in modern letters, the Catherine Mansfield Award, one of my favorite all-time authors, the Catherine Mansfield Fellowship, and the Janet Frame Fiction Prize. Her novels, The Wish Child and The Axeman's Carnival, both won the Acorn Prize for Fiction, New Zealand's most prestigious literary award. She lives in Cambridge, New Zealand, and lectures in creative writing at the University of Waikato. Is that correct? And Kat, anytime you would like to invite me to New Zealand, I would be happy to go. Because I'm dying to go there. Reagan, I hear you're in a restaurant. Is that true?
I am, and I can't see myself, but I don't know if you can see me.
Well, you look really good.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to hear. I was
Are you
pumping you for that.
finish it or?
Anyway, hello.
Reagan is the vice president and publisher of Cardinal, an imprint of Hachette. Prior to this role, she was the executive vice president and publisher of Knopf, and prior to that, at Little Brown. Throughout her career, she's worked with acclaimed authors, among them Kate Atkinson, Sherman Alexie, George Pelecanos, and Tina Fey. Now I'm going to ask Catherine and Reagan to start their microphones and cameras to come onto the digital stage, which we've already done. So go for it.
Thank you, Lee. And Catherine, people might be surprised to learn this is the first time we're actually meeting via Zoom or even on the phone. So I'm so happy to see you and grateful to the BuzzBooks people for inviting us to talk about your amazing book. So I don't want to take up too much time. I want you to be able to tell this incredible group here. So my first question for you is, in one sentence, could you describe the Book of Guilt?
Yes. Hi, Reagan. So nice. Reagan. So nice to see your face. And thank you, Lee. Thank you to BuzzBooks for inviting me. So in one sentence, in a skewed version of 1979 England, children's homes that are part of a national scheme are being shut down and the children released into the community, which is making the community very nervous.
Very well done. Very well summarized. It's a book that's hard to contain. So when I read this book last summer, for various reasons, I didn't know anything about it. Your agent, who I've known forever, basically called me and told me I had to read it. And since it was by you, I knew she was right. So I read it sort of blind. And so all of these touches that are vaguely surreal, like these characters named Mother Night and Mother Day, all of it felt sort of possible. And so I found myself Googling things like the Sycamore scheme. And I've seen other readers comment on this too. Like I found myself Googling historical facts that I should know by now, but there was so much about it that felt possible. And it reminded me of that great Ray Bradbury story, The Sound of Thunder, which is what gave us the, now ubiquitous phrase, the butterfly effect, where one small thing or perhaps a big thing, one event can change the whole course of human history. And so I'm just sorry to be looking at my notes, but I do love the way you took that question that so many of us have thought about. Anybody, what would have happened if World War II ended a different way? And so, and you spun that out in a completely, I don't think any of us would have thought of it going the way that you've imagined it, and I won't give too much away. But I'm wondering, was that your inciting idea for the novel, or was there something else that drew you to these characters in this place?
Yeah, that was the inciting idea, and it's a difficult book to talk about without giving things away. I agree. I'm so pleased to hear about the Googling. I did know that other readers had been, looking up the Sycamore scheme as well to see if it was real, which is delightful. But yeah, my idea was not to take as a jumping off point what if the Nazis had been victorious, which I guess is the more usual scenario for a counterfactual novel like this. But what if nobody won? So what if an uneasy truce was declared and a treaty was signed and concessions had to be made on both sides? And what if one upshot from that treaty was the sharing of research conducted during the war, and the kind of research that would allow for great scientific advances and medical advances to happen much earlier? And then what does that mean ethically if we're going to say, all right, well, we'll use kind of unethically obtained data from the war, and we're going to try to make something good out of that? What does that mean morally? I guess also the other seed for the book was thinking about these identical triplets, 13-year-old brothers, Vincent, William, and Lawrence, and how even though people can be genetically identical and difficult to tell apart, they can have really different personalities, and they can have favorites amongst themselves. So Vincent, who's the main narrator of the Book of Guilt, has a deep love for his brother William, but William is quite cruel to him. And Lawrence, who is the gentler brother and kinder brother, doesn't have the same bond with Vincent. So I wanted to explore that, really difficult dynamic between siblings and within a family.
I mean, one of the great delights of the novel is Vincent's role as our, I would say, principal narrator, and, his voice and his personality. I mean, you really inhabit a 13-year-old boy, which I'm safely assuming you've never been, but we are so sort of in his world and seeing the world from his perspective. And I just wondered if that was a challenge for you, or how you kind of came to that voice and to that perspective.
Yeah, I really loved writing as Vincent, and I think I was drawn to creating a character at that stage of his life because it's a stage when everything is in such a state of flux, and when we begin to question the world and what we've always thought was true, and the adults that we've always trusted, and those in positions of authority. So, at 13, yes, we still have one foot firmly in childhood, but we are also beginning to develop an adult sensibility. And it was really important to me to present Vincent as a believable 13-year-old boy. So, for instance, to have him feeling clueless about what to say to the girls from one of the other children's homes who come to visit in order to prepare the children for their release into the community. So we see Vincent, stumbling his way through these really painful and also funny so-called socialization days. And possibly we as readers remember when we were awkward 13-year-olds then too. But I wanted to do a bit more than that with Vincent and with the other child narrator in the book, a girl called Nancy, who's also 13 and who lives with her parents but has never been allowed to leave their property her entire life. So I wanted those moments when those two children narrators begin to question everything they thought they knew about these strange, isolated worlds. I wanted those moments to feel risky and quite thrilling, and to have a certain intensity about them. So when the children are beginning to kick against the obfuscation around their lives and around who they are, I wanted to make the reader start to question and try to piece together the dark truths at the heart of the novel, and to want to keep reading to find out, as the children find out, what exactly has been going on.
I mean, there is so much going on, and I will admit that as a reader, I'm not naturally drawn to dystopian fiction, and yet this book is that in many senses. And I think that a lot of what people respond to in dystopian fiction and me and your book is that sense of like how close it is to something possible in our world now. I shouldn't have been surprised when I Googled this and like I learned that there is an actual, just as in your novel, there's a minister of loneliness in the UK. Like that is an actual position that was created in 2022, and we can all now understand why. But were you aiming to make comparisons about the world we live in now, or invite readers to do that, or do you feel the sort of echoes are almost accidental?
Yeah, I mean, just as with my earlier novel, Remote Sympathy, which was set in Nazi Germany, I always had an interest in our human capacity to look the other way from injustice and to exist in a state of not blissful ignorance, but willful ignorance, and to convince ourselves that the greater good is an acceptable reason for valuing some lives less than others. Because, the greater good always implies a subset of people who won't benefit, and that there will be some undesirable outcomes for those people, and those are the ones who are kind of brushed aside and looked away from and minimized. And so through the character of the Minister of Loneliness, and incidentally, the idea for her came from my reading of an article about the Japanese Minister of Loneliness that existed before the British one. But yeah, I kind of grabbed onto that title as being really interesting and something that I wanted to weave into a book. So in the Book of Guilt, the character of the Minister of Loneliness experiences this gradual moral shift. And I want readers to put themselves in her shoes and to ask, well, what would I have done given this population who are just expected to sacrifice for the greater good? And then once I have that knowledge about what we're asking them to do, and I can't unknow it, then what am I going to do with that?
Catherine, it's such a joy to meet you, first of all, but to hear you talk about this book that I love so much, and I'm excited for all of you to discover it as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations
Thank
to you
you.
both. It's really a
Thanks,
wonderful
Reagan.
book. It's so rich, amazing. So thank you. And yeah, the Minister of Loneliness, I think we all need a little dose of that. So
Thanks, Lee. Thanks,
Thanks.
Reagan.
thanks, guys.
Thank you all.